full blast as we sail into episode 400. Finally. We could see it coming for what felt like months. Anyways, hilarious. Welcome back, everyone, as we continue our journey together, sailing through the sky. Artist Journal, February 24th, 2025, broadcasting from inner space. Indeed, as I stare off into this incredible work. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. This, my friends, definitely, what are you going to start episode 400 with? Well, waffles did not disappoint. This is of incredible magnitude and significance. In fact, as I was saying to myself, welcome to the bleeding edge of visual culture. And I say that with no hyperbole. And feel free to leave a comment if you have something else that you'd like to present as saying, actually, Adrian, this new work by Julian Schnabel is actually far more important than what you're showing by this weirdo called Hasdrubal Waffle. Or look at this. We have a work here from the, hamburger Banoff, Adrian Pocobelli. You don't know what you're talking about. Well, let me show you. Let me present my case. This digital mess over here? Yes. So welcome to the cutting edge, I dare say again. Why? So we're looking at Hasdrubal Waffles. Okay, puts out a bunch of new works, and then for those astute observers, how was this made? What tool was this? How? What is this video? Is this... It kind of looks like Fantavision in terms of the movement. It kind of looks like maybe some of the web, apps that Waffles was using, KidPix, Deluxe Paint. It seems to be a bit of a mishmash, doesn't it? Well, luckily, we have a clue here. We have a clue from Waffles' comments and on the show as well as online. And let me show you. The secret ingredient is responding to Little Cakes to another new work we're about to look at here in the same spirit that was also just put out. Secret ingredient is DeepSeek and Python. So what do we have here? We have artists making their own tools. Hello, DeepSeek or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever pick your poison. And Python, which we're seeing again, of course, Canik Zapata, opening the can of worms called Python. And so Waffles, what we're seeing here is artists making their own tools using AI. And what's incredibly this is interesting on so many levels. Because if you listen to Waffles' space that Waffles put out, Hasdrubal Waffle, the artist you'll see here, named here, he was mentioning in one of those spaces that he recorded, just giving updates of how he was trying to put together some sort of synthesis using AI of Deluxe Paint, Fantavision, and Mario Paint. And I don't know, but based on this comment here, and based on the fact that I don't really recognize exactly, it kind of echoes certain softwares. And I mean, this is really the confirmation here. What we have here, I would argue, is the bleeding edge of visual culture. I would go so far as to say, and I love disagreement, feel free to disagree and prove me wrong in the comments. I would love to hear it because I'm dying to see. And so this is quite something. Again, let's go back to context. Contemporary art, you go back to your contemporary art exhibition you were just at, or you're going even to digital art exhibition you're just at. Generative art, okay, cool. But are they making their own tools? And and another kind of interesting aspect of this is it creates a moat to create Warren Buffett, right? How is someone going to copy this? Other than, sticking it in the AI machine and getting some kind of, wacky derivative. So it's kind of interesting in that respect as well. When you have your own software, you really do, it does kind of help create a moat, and it creates an originality, as we've seen through the history of art, but also particularly in the digital arts, how the preeminent importance of software. In a sense, you can see softwares as, it's tempting to even say different mediums, in the sense that it can all be painting, like within the context of painting, to take a traditional art, there is oil painting, there is acrylic painting, there are different mediums, there are different brands, which make it a huge difference, by the way. Student paints break down and they're actually not that great. Professional paints kind of are better, so to speak. They don't break down so easily. They're easier to work with. What brush do you use? There's also watercolor. There's also all this other, pick your painting medium, right? There's my friend Ben, who we've seen works by recently. I think it's water-based oil paints, hilariously, perfectly. So what does it mean when you can, to use the analogy, it's almost like in the digital world, Photoshop is kind of like oil painting, let's call it, as an analogy. And then you have deluxe paint, say, it's like a different kind of paintbrush. It's like, or medium, but maybe a better way of doing it is it's a different paintbrush. It's using different brushes, so to speak. Like you're getting a different effect. And what I mean by that is the tools you use dictate the outcome of your work. So it's no small matter. In fact, you could argue it's central, because the way that work is going to turn out depends on the tools that you're using. We're kind of getting back to techne. Art is techne, right? Technique. Now, techne isn't tool, okay, but it is, how are you going about it? It's the craft. So, again, I can't understate or overstate, I can't overstate the magnitude of this. It almost doesn't matter what happens here. But what we do have is a convincing waffles, but it doesn't look like traditional waffles. It's a little different. And look at what the market did. So releases it, I believe this was on Manifold and then listed on Foundation. I think that's what happened as I, piece together the narrative here. Look at the sales that Waffles has made, and it almost all sold in the blink of an eye. Zoltar picking up 4 of them, who is also we can look at Zoltar's collection, also a collector of machine, interestingly. So here, 0.2 plus 0.15 plus 0.15, so we're at half an ETH here, plus 0.15, all sold. So 0.65, and then here, 0.75, 0.8. So here, Waffles, if this auction is not outbid here, is going to walk away with a cool 0.8 ETH. And how well deserved is that? And we've barely looked at the works. Let's look at some of the works here. So what is this one called? Buzz Aldrin's Return. Kind of a nice title. So here, again, we see, what looks like Fantavision blocks moving back and forth. I suspect, again, some sort of weird hybrid using DeepSeek has been used to make this, okay? I suspect, if I'm correct on what's happening here. Let's look at some of the other works. Here's Zoltar's collection quickly. And as you see, picked up machine here. There's Syriza, who used to be, I think, something PNG. Remember them? More Waffles, Kazuhiro Ehara. Nice collection, isn't it? This person, Spiegel's Maskinen, RJ, Walk. Nice collection. Graphica PNG. That's who it was. Zoltar. Interesting collector. Here's another one. Okay, so these are videos, by the way, and so let's load this up too as we wait. So here, what is this called? Let's just look here. Just a couple, almost like pin stake, right? Just showing the icons here. And it kind of looks like, I don't know, maybe a witch or a monkey based on the hats here. And again, but that's almost kind of secondary. Because I'm back to what tool is making this, right? And I think, again, we're back to our AI custom-made tool. Interestingly, look at this. This is also a video, interestingly. And what I suspect is going on here, and again, I could be wrong, but I think this is another example. Because we haven't seen this kind of texturing, for example, that's in the back here. Or even of what's going on with this water, right? If you look up close to the water, I don't know if we can't make it any larger because it's a video. And so here the question is this a hybrid? This is kind of what I suspect is going on here, where the underneath part looks like a custom-made tool, if I had to guess. Again, taking a guess. And then over top, I'm a little bit more familiar. I don't know if this is KidPix, Deluxe Paint, some sort of paint program we've seen before, maybe over top of this kind of beach layer. And then these also, these dolphins or sharkfish also look like they're maybe from a more traditional program put over top, right? Here's another one. And again, this looks kind of more, for lack of a better term, traditional, but is this incorporating, like we've seen these kind of crying figures before, we've seen the stamps before, we've seen the incorporation of this kind of Giphy, I want to call it like, not paste art, but, just like little kind of mini GIFs like you'd find on the old internet. But we do sort of have some of these weird textures in the background. So again, it's tempting to think of this as a hybrid. Here's another weird one. Remember we saw Kathy? Well, this time we have, I don't remember the name of this character here. Another obscure cartoon or newspaper, I believe, cartoon from the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And there, another maybe 80s reference over there with that, whatever that is called. And then we have this figure here who looks more traditionally painted, but again, this background doesn't look so traditionally painted, which again makes me tempted to think this is perhaps a hybrid. And here, this is interesting too. So this is more Fantavision, right? Go, but is it? Right? So the question in my head is, as we wait for this to load here, is this Fantavision, or is this the new tool? Is this for all we know, Waffles has several tools. It could just be Fantavision. It kind of looks like it, but maybe, is it a little smoother? Is it a little different? Hard to say, right? So, again, the fact that it's not obvious anymore, to me, marks a shift, is kind of like in my mind. We're starting to cross over, I would argue, is what's starting to happen here. We're starting to enter a new paradigm, which is we're going from the software, the corporate software, thanks to AI, we're now able to create our own software, so to speak, and we're starting to get to the territory where it's not clear anymore if this is AI-produced software by Waffles, a custom-made software, or a corporate software, so to speak. And it feels like a very big deal to me, which is why I'm thrilled to start with it here today. So the wonderful Waffles, what a wonderful way to start episode 400. This, my friends, is delicious. This is exciting. This is, I would argue, if this isn't, here's, maybe a humbler way of putting it. If this isn't the bleeding edge, what is? That is, feel free to leave a comment. Let us continue. I finally did it. Shout out to Waffles. Shout out to Waffles and Ed Marola, as a matter of fact, who was asking for this. As well, saying, it would be, it was actually Ed Marola's extra comment, like, Adrian, it would be really great if this came out. That's why I put it out. Ed was like right here in my brain. I was like, I have to do this. So thank you. How to put your art out on Bitcoin, a beginner's guide. So I think you guys should be able to figure it out from what I brought you here. I think I gave you the tools. If you're brand new, it might still be a little trickier, but I don't think so. But if you have questions, by all means, feel free to leave a comment. And awesome to hear from people like Lucas out of Buenos Aires. Awesome. Bosque Gracias. Thank you, Adrian. We needed this. So I love hearing from the Argentinians here. We're going to hear from them again in a few tabs. Local Doodler, thank you. Ed Marola, Bitcoin won't be the same after this. That is the hope. That is the absolute hope. Sensitive Disorder, thanks. So sorry for the delay. It is here. And interestingly, so I minted this work or inscribed it yesterday. And just so you guys know, it has gone through. For those that watched the video, I was like, I don't know because I didn't put it at if we go to the mempool here, this is a Bitcoin mempool. It was at something like 14 and I put it at like 6 V-bytes. Okay. And I explained what all this means in the video and why you need to be paying attention. It went through last night. So just kind of another little moral of the story, like you got to be careful. You don't know if it's going to get lost in there forever if you put it too low, but there is variation in the mempool. So it's worth kind of studying the mempool in terms of your costs, because I could have spent like $40 US for that same result of getting it inscribed. Another thing to mention here, as we see Waffles putting on Ethereum, Ethereum's now that Bitcoin's gone up, it's at 10 V-bytes. It was at like 1 or 2 last weekend. Not this weekend that just passed, but a week ago. So something's going on Bitcoin that is clogging up the transaction. So it's getting more expensive. But this is what I'm looking at now. I still need to transfer like 2/3, 3/4 of the Peloponnesian War over to Ethereum. And now I'm just sort of like, okay, time to put some work on Ethereum, right? And here in the meantime, as the fees are higher, and they could go higher from here, so you may not want to wait. But the way I'm approaching it, because I've been, was playing with 1 to 4 V-bytes for the last 2 months, I'm sort of like, maybe I'll wait and see if this passes. So I'll just make work on the side, and then if fees go down, then I'll mint 10 at a time, right? Is kind of how I'm approaching it, right? The more I do this, because why pay more, I spent like $1,000 to mint to inscribe the Inferno with 34 works, and they were 5 kilobytes each. If I had waited till say last week, it would have cost me maybe $150, not even, maybe $120, right? So so right now this is what I'm looking at. This is Ethereum gas fees. For those that are wondering, they're extremely low right now. Buy an NFT for $1. That's very cheap. Let's look at comments here. Thank you for the support on last episode there. With the Canic Zapata piece. Cider, great to hear from you as ever. K-Town Crypto King. 40 seconds in, you got me chuckling. Stay blessed. My pleasure, and thank you for the ongoing support, my friend. I believe out of, is it Humboldt or Estevan? I think it's Humboldt, Saskatchewan. Fellow Saskatchewanian. Misty Art, could you do a video on the do's and don'ts of object? I feel like I'm breaking unwritten rules. Great vid as always. So thank you for the comment, Misty. I wouldn't feel appropriate. I don't think it's for me to say the do's and don'ts. And I think that's kind of a more subjective. But what I would say is post regularly on social media, particularly on X. Put a consistent practice. Buy other people's works always helps, because then people get to know who you are and they'll just naturally kind of feel sympathetic and like you a little bit. If you're buying their artworks, you don't need to spend a fortune. But if you say sell some works, and they might even want to support you just out of you bought their works, they might want to buy your works just to be nice, right? And then you start to just, and you start to build something. So follow people, Don't go crazy. Just follow people who you like, and don't worry, it'll get huge. And just start to participate is really the kind of long and the short of it. As far as the unwritten rules, and there are probably people who are more qualified than me, in a sense, to describe how to do that. But that's how I approach it. Ed Marola, I want to know everything about the BTC, right? So this is what stimulated that video. So thank you, Ed. Sometimes that extra little push, and I'm really glad I did it, finally, and I got it out of the way. It's been hanging over my head for weeks here. Stuart Reed, GM. Awesome to hear from you, Stuart. Long-time watcher. Also on X, thank you for the support here. Rural Idol, big up, Poco. Can't believe we're at episode 400. Indeed. Thanks for all, and you've been here for a lot of that journey, so thank you for the support. Peindre, glad you spotted no rules applied, building a virtual exhibition at the moment with all works and more. Awesome. Looked very interesting. I love the courage. I love when artists are courageous and don't care, and it's like, here's my manifesto, and you guys can take it or leave it. This is where I stand. It's very powerful to do stuff like that. So, when I saw that, I was like, here's someone who's kind of like, throwing down the gauntlet, so to speak, or putting their, setting their stake in the ground and saying, I'm mad as hell. I don't know if I'd say I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. But basically, here it is, take it or leave it. I love that. August Ground, Mercy Cunningham, thank you. That is the dancing, the New York dance, dance choreographer who is friends with Robert Rauschenberg and John Cage that I was trying to remember. Thank you, August Ground. Of course, August would get that. Ed Woods, great video. Thanks for the feature again, Adrian. Much appreciated. We have another one. I love Ed Woods' pesky work, pesky artwork. Yan Lucas Magone, fresh. Thank you. And always great to hear from you. Tornado Rodriguez, thanks, my dear Poco, for the feature. You're welcome. Revolu, thank you for the comment. Yekta, great to hear from you. And HH, LFG, indeed. There was something I wanted to. So remember this comment from last show, Deggy D, right? I was actually, as I wrote to Deg, I was actually going to call last episode a new narrative, and I forgot to. But I was like, that is so great, a new narrative. I should almost change the last episode. I was tempted to call this episode, but I think I might call this episode a paradigm shift or something like that. There is an immense significance is happening here in our little scene, my friends. Let's continue. But I did want to get Deggy D as well as Nicholas Dietrich's follow-ups on that comment. As I was saying, when I go out, as I was saying here, when I often go out to local contemporary art museums, I'm always kind of surprised at how well this scene stands up. Because I keep on wanting to see a Sabato on the wall. And just wanting to see one. It's not because I'm going, it's not because I'm thinking and going, it's just like, I'm where's that? Because that's what I'm used to. And I don't see it. And then I'm kind of mildly disappointed, so Deggy D. I can definitely relate to what I was just saying. I grew up in an environment immersed in contemporary art, and as I got older, fully embraced it. I loved exploring and learning as much as I could, but somehow in recent years, I started to feel disconnected. I don't want to sound harsh because I believe there are still great contemporary artists, but the art practice of the past 20 years has often felt like trying to brew fresh tea with the same leaves that have already been used multiple times. A perfect analogy, and I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying here, Deggy D, and me especially. That slowly started to change when I discovered some NFT artists, and I believe the Tezos scene in particular has fully reignited my excitement. Isn't that exciting? And I feel the same way. I wouldn't do this show, I wouldn't spend all this time, do 400 episodes without feeling like there's, I kind of want to be a part of this. You know what I'm saying? So I feel it. I see it. We just opened the show. Yes. So thank you for the comment. And I also wanted to include this comment. Nicholas Dietrich. I think here we have a freshness with genuine innovation tied into the now and informed by the past. Very succinctly put by Nicholas Dietrich. And indeed, Like, what else? Again, I'm kind of like, what else do you need? Innovation, relevant, contemporary, relevant to our lives, tied into the now and informed by the past. Beautiful. So I didn't want to miss those. Let's continue here. So as we continue into the crypto world here, so Zora, peeking out here and saying, hi, posts on Zora are now instantly tradable coins. As I talk about this kind of forced marriage between crypto and digital artists. So here, each post, so this is the latest scheme. Each post is so now your art, before it was edition or a one of one, now each post is a coin with a supply of 1 billion. Creators automatically receive 10 million coins at launch. Creators earn 1% of every trade. Coin it, trade it, discover the value of your posts. I mean, it sounds like a trading exchange, right? And I think that's the point. I think that's what people want to do. But I mean, this is my issue with this from just purely a conceptual point of view. The stock market works because these are companies that have growth, right? So you're buying a part of a company based on future earnings, price to earnings ratio, right? And so this whole idea, so you're buying a fraction of the company so that you get your share of the growth. But with a collectible, I don't think it's the same paradigm. I think it's a different logic. I think with a collectible, it's about scarcity. There's only 5 or 10, Action Comics #1 in the world. So it's like trying to apply a stock market model to collectibles, isn't it? That's what it seems like to me. And so that doesn't work because, and this is kind of like the final point on this. Who wants to own a billionth of, like even a waffles? Like so what? It's like a billionth of a coin. And then what's the argument for saying this is going to be somehow, worth anything like later? Like what's the future earnings? I guess maybe it's going to be more valuable. But so again, it just seems like the sad situation in crypto right now, not to be too harsh on Zora, but it's just sad. Like, is this what it's come to? It's just kind of, like, how can we financialize this into, the next thing? Jacob, who I believe is a founder, who's with Zora, one of the people that run it, Zora 21. Image to token, Zora 23, image to token, Zora 25, image to token. The only difference, the liquidity and scalability of the underlying market. We went from 1 token and 1 collector to 1 billion tokens and infinite holders. This is how you tokenize at internet scale. So maybe there's something I don't understand here, but I don't understand why on earth you would want to, like, just as someone who's collected and sold digital art, I just don't get it. Like, why, so am I going to buy 10 million waffle coins and then I hope it goes up? Like, I don't even understand, like, what's going on here. Like, and maybe that's on me. I don't know. Let's try and figure out more. Here's Jacob again. Monetizing content with crypto will never be enough and is looking at a new technology through the eyes of the old paradigm. Tokenizing content with crypto is still early, raw, uncharted, and powerful, and is something you can only do in this new paradigm. Again, like, I think people are quite happy, frankly, with what's kind of mind-blowing to me is in crypto, there are very, very, very few use cases that are proven and that are solid, and one of them, I would argue, one of the very few, other than money transfer and transferring value, thanks to people believing in Bitcoin, is digital art. And so why are we trying to get, like, it's the only thing that works, and now we're going to be like, no, this needs to be turned into coins, and that's not working? The only thing that works is not working? Like, I don't even understand what these people are talking about anymore. And final point on this, because then you say, oh, are you just anti-crypto? I'm becoming anti-crypto. I'm becoming anti-crypto the more garbage I see like this, dare I say, to be controversial here. Let's continue. Coop. I'm all for the push for on-chain media to be released as coins instead of collectibles. So I'm all for it. My biggest issue is that coins require a ton of volume for creators to see meaningful income from swap fees. So unfortunately, I'm all for it, but unfortunately creators are not going to get anything. Creators are likely not crypto savvy, so knowing when to sell their own tokens or how adds another layer of complexity that is really difficult to explain. I mean, I've done 400 shows just to remind you, and if I don't understand what you're doing here, how are we going to explain it to the person on the street and them look at us with a straight face and say, this is a good idea? I want to do this? At their core, coins are speculative. I'm still not fully convinced this is the end all be all for putting content on chain, but I'm a huge fan of the experimentation and learning a ton from watching it unfold in real time. So very diplomatic. I love it. I don't understand how this is actually going to work. It doesn't work for creators, but this is interesting experimentation. So very diplomatic here. Chris Corella. If you're thinking of the new Zora as a meme coin launchpad, you need to shake your preconceived notions because it's something new, the tokenization of all content. But I'm kind of back to, okay, let's imagine a music example. And again, please write a comment if I don't understand here, if I'm missing something. But let's say, there's a great song that comes out. Why would I want to own like a billionth of a song? And what's the earnings model here? Like, what is it? So am I buying this fragment so that one day, in a sense, it's going to be more valuable because people are somehow going to want to collect it? Or that somehow we're going to, write a blog article and then, that's a really good blog article and people are going to... I don't understand why people would want to collect coins of like a blog article or of a music or frankly of a digital image. Like it starts to be so far removed. And again, it seems to be trying to force, again, this meme coin or this crypto paradigm onto things that don't need it. And here you have like the only use case that works. I would argue, other than money transfer, the most reliable, and of course you could say lending. Some people use that. I don't know how many, but DeFi, okay. But other than that, it's digital art. And it's like, well, actually, it's all not working, even though it is working. We're being told it's not working, and in fact, they should be coins. Okay. Bulls. Shout out to Bulls out of Buenos Aires. It has nothing to do with creators. It has nothing to do with arts or content anymore. The Web2 idea of it, it's pump fun. Best case scenario, Solana, ETH, Degen, Cabals, give it a chance, and they include an artist or two in their games. Not saying this is neither good or bad, it just is. So it sure seems that way, doesn't it? DC Investor. Look, so it's getting bad out there. DC Investor was someone committed suicide and said something about a meme coin, like, don't turn me into a meme coin. It's getting basically as ugly as it gets out there in crypto. So here's DC Investor. I've been in crypto since 2013, but if we can't move the needle away from zero-sum extractive scams, now promoting messages of hate and self-harm, into gainful use via DeFi, identity solutions, meaningful culture, then I'll probably leave crypto. And here's one of the biggest enthusiasts of crypto really on the planet. And here, Hardo, ordinals are different, fewer scams or none at all. I hope so. I didn't know that. A passion for tech and art with museums starting to join in. Come be a part of it. What I like about ordinals is it's decentralized. And and you can do it without a platform. You go to Ordiscan, that's what I show in the video. You don't need anybody. Same with Manifold to a certain degree. Like the kind of, in a sense, what we see with Waffles is to me almost the conclusion, so to speak, of all of this is for the digital artist, it's like to be completely independent. That is the sell of crypto to a certain degree for the digital artist is pure independence. Don't rely on a gallery. I market myself. I have a direct line to my collectors. That's cool, right? So there is a use case here. Dave, the space needs a turn towards art and creative culture. It's culture that drives the adoption of new technologies. It's a win for all if the cultural layer thrives. Who's down to work on this? What ideas do you have to help build and foster creative spirit here? I would love to hear your thoughts on this. So what I find interesting as well in terms of contrast is, for all of the problems that crypto is having, and it's very dark, as we were just discussing, with the scams and more, tragedies, we're doing pretty good over here, is what I would say. From my own personal perspective, it's pretty awesome over here. And again, I don't know why, Zora isn't trying to, they had the artists. Like, why aren't they trying to boost the artists instead of, like, they're actually running in the opposite direction? It seems to me, again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. So why aren't they trying to build, off of this? And it almost brings up, like, where have been, like, the big ETH influencers as far as helping the show? Like, just out of curiosity, like, where is this guy's talking about crypto and digital art. Maybe it's not the digital art that are in our bags, but that's cool. There isn't any, interestingly, I would say, for the most part, right? So it's all very interesting. Now, here, Marco. Shout out to Marco. We need an editorial apparatus. I ran a thread-based art Marco-zine, which I didn't know about for some months. Response was great. Still, my reach is quite modest. We artists should talk a lot more about our content. I'm the first not doing it enough. At least you started a Marco-zine. Then scout, and try to put the art in context. Journalists with good education and no actual investment in art, good or bad, who can promote good art or even share some criticism. This place could be a candy shop of actual in-depth content. Something like Pocobelli, but he's maybe the only one doing it at that level. Thank you. So, but this is the point. I think Marco's exactly right. Like, if crypto is having culture problems, why don't they embrace the most important things, I would argue, that are going on in the culture? You have what I'd call the cutting edge of visual culture globally on this planet Earth is happening, I would argue, and I'm open to hearing I'm sure there are other points of view that completely disagree, with Waffles there. And, well, we're not going to talk about Waffles because he's not whatever, whatever their reasoning is. But here, we need to turn your art into coins, and this is going to solve everything, and we're going to get mainstream adoption that way. So I have to laugh. So anyways, how are we doing? 37 minutes, we have to speed up. Gogolitis, 2025 will be the year I take the leap into physical art, something I've been thinking about for a long time. That sounds incredibly exciting. I can't wait to see how this translates, really. It's going to be a great journey. Document your journey, Gogo. I would love to see that and happily follow it here. The question was how? How can I pay tribute to animated works with such vibrant colors? Indeed, a wonderful question. And even like a pre-NFT question for digital artists. How do I make my work physical? How can I recreate those brilliant effects without relying on screens or electronics? And further, my friend, if you're watching, how do you justify making this work physical? What are you adding to the artwork by making it physical? Because I think that's where you start to, again, you get to really interesting ground. I'd argue to a certain degree it's traveling through the mediums. A dialogue which we've seen back to Warhol in the late Warhol, which we've discussed many times here. How can I make it affordable? Interesting. Yeah, and exactly. I mean, I would make more physical art, but it's always like, well, do I really want to spend this money and time when I can just open the iPad, put work on Bitcoin and call it a day? Or Tezos or Ethereum. I thought about it for a long time, experimented, and I believe I finally found the solution and the perfect machine for the job. Can't wait. So tantalizing. Go. This is cool too. This is Dan Control. So Nintendo Magazine, what a painter. What a painter that Dan Control is here. So very nice work. Dan Control out of Rome, Italy. Beautiful painting, Dan. Here's Murakit. And let's see if we can load this up. Maybe, there we go. Yes, this looked pretty cool too. I'm not sure if we saw this before. But what we see here is Murakit's incredibly cool, interesting, kind of pixelated out, kind of manga, so to speak, or anime figures with the effects on effects using Murakit's beautiful style. So here it is in print, all to say. Here's Polygon 1993. New prints are here. So interesting as ever, Polygon 1993, pretty big account, 50,000 views. Here, 58,000 views. Let me just make these bigger. A huge diskette, pretty hilarious, actually. So very interesting from Polygon 1993. And here's Jada, GM. So a nice confabulation or joining of several different viewing options or displays, I should say. As we continue into the work in our last 20 minutes here, Feeding of Chickens, edition of 1, went to Artie hands at auction, 400 Tezos. Nice sale. So again, Tezos, for all the talk of Bitcoin and even Ethereum, Tezos is still an excellent place to sell your work, and has never really, to me, it's always been surprising at how resilient that culture is. And that has to be mentioned here within this whole discussion of, here, how to put your art on Bitcoin and everything. I am not, and this is the thing, I am not tribal with blockchains. I do have a certain, you might say, argument for Bitcoin. But the show has always been multi-chain. In case you're wondering out there. And I look forward to I love the community of Tezos, the collectors, from an artist's perspective. I can put my artwork there, and there's just a great community of collectors and artists. And the art is awesome, as we can see here. So here, as we see, up close and personal with Yuri J. That looks like one of the chickens here. And here we see these wonderful kind of almost square marks here with some noise on top and everything. And here's someone feeding the chickens. Beautiful, beautiful canvas from Yuri JJJ, almost the experimental account. Again, going to Artie hands for 400 Tezos. Beautiful work. Very painterly. Here is also Yuri J's second account, Walking the Dog. This almost looks like an impressionist painting in terms of composition. It almost has that, gosh, who is it? The name escapes me right now. Great impressionist. I want to say, I think he was British. Oh, what was his name? Maybe I want to say Alfred, but it doesn't, I'm not sure if that's the right one, but this definitely has kind of a 19th century composition to me. And look at this interesting, again, the digital texture here. Speaking of moats, like what's kind of cool is the more painterly you get, the harder it is to copy, right? And which is interesting. And you zoom out and you just go, that's a nice canvas. Again, beautiful digital painting. Here's another one, Moving of Snow. So Yuri J continuing to impress and evolve with every passing image or painting that passes through our viewfinder here or across our screen. There's that mosaic filter, and you just see all the beauty and wonder. Let's continue. Martin Bruce, more incredible work on Tezos. 17th of July, 17th Julio 2021-6. Interesting title. So there, I guess that's the stapler that we're seeing last episode. So again, just always interesting. Another gorgeous canvas. Edition of 1, still available. Interestingly, this went to Deggy D. This went for 90 Tezos to Deggy D at auction. Dracula Battle. So another super interesting one of one from Martin Bruce, who's been putting out one almost every day for the last week or so. It's been great to watch. So great to see Martin Bruce on the scene. This is called Pickup Cat, and I think this was actually put on Rodeo. I think this was burned and put on Rodeo. So this was never, I don't know if it was ever listed. It doesn't look like it. So interesting, again, more just pushing the envelope experimentation with Martin Bruce, and you see that TV Snow playing with that style that is actually quite recognizable, that almost cartoon style. Beautiful work by Martin Bruce. Here's Sui Soichi, Chameleon Puzzle. So more exotic artwork here on Tezos. Looks like a bit of noise incorporated into and you see how like the pixel art is kind of processed, which kind of gives it another kind of, again, you think of Yuri J and the textures here. You think of just the layering. Cool composition, kind of mysterious. Edition of 50, and accepting offers of 10. So nice work. Here's another one, Verses from a Burned Love Letter. Again, this kind of textured pixel art. We see a bit of a noise in the background here with the pixels. Nice contrast. Here's Kennick Zapata, another fabulous artist here. She started collecting art in Rarible and gets deep in the ecosystem to the point that she reached Tea Art and fell in love with the Tezos art scene. Indeed, like many of us. Stable diffusion output with cellular animated with Python script. So here, another gorgeous addition to the series. And I love this stuff. This almost expressionist like rendering of the figures. Just rad. What do I call it? Computer expressionism or digital expressionism? Can't remember. Kennick Zapata, an art collector showing some recent prints in her collection. So again, this and just the image and the images are fabulous too, a kind of contrast of sorts in themselves. And look at just all this painterliness in these textures. And also from Kennick Zapata, another close-up of an anime figure, or manga. Manga is the comics, anime are the movies, as far as I understand. So again, just gorgeous work. How are we going to finish this all in 14 minutes with such beautiful work? Here's Ed Marola. Big shout out to Ed, dog. And you gotta love, can you see it? Maybe you can't see it. There's a little bit of a dithered shadow here. Nice move and interesting whatever's going on here, right? Like it's a dog that looks like almost like some sort of 3D shaping of it or filter has been put on it to give it some sort of shadow. Always interesting, always kind of experimental, always improvised. Wonderful work from Ed Marola, always interesting. Here's Nov 1914, picked up by Deggy D for 20 Tezos, edition of 1. And so again, here we are with more experimentation. Look at the frame. That's looking a little different, and almost we're seeing these black and white works. Again, not even sure what's going on. Kind of a limited palette with Nov 1914 out of Argentina. Interesting juxtaposition of different elements here. Here's another one. And again, we're seeing like the frame. This is a smaller one. The frame is now just here. You always have to admire Nov 1914's, again, crossing thresholds here, breaking boundaries, aesthetic expectations, challenging. Another great artist out of Buenos Aires, maybe out of, at least out of Argentina for sure. I have my books and my poetry to protect me. This went to Neon Monk. So cool. Just ready for the institution, for the institutions. Distance, this is by Zozo. This is for 1 of 1. I think they did 3. This might be a commission. A soothing work. Some beautiful trees here. Digital elements, gradients. So here's one, distance. Here is another, also to 1 of 1. So maybe it was a triptych. The bull. And there is the bull. So more classic, totally unique. Look at these artists. You see what Deggy D is talking about. Look at how much great art we've seen so far. We're halfway through. Let's keep going here. The cup. Someone having a cup of coffee. It's, again, if not here, where will you ever see anything like that? Beautiful. Inspired by Tarsila do Amaral, 1923. Again, thinking of what Nicholas Dietrich was saying there. Who we have a work by. Here's Françoise Gamma. Interesting piece. Very interesting artist here. There's the still, of course. 343 likes. Interesting. Let's continue. Here's, not sure how to pronounce that. Multidimensional artist, 8-bit legacy. This is an edition of 15 for 45 Tezos. Cool work. More cool art on Tezos. Kind of looks like a circuit board, but with different images. Almost like the Pixel Art Factory, but more circuit board-esque. 8-bit legacy, cool title. That was just minted. Art delivery. This is Rosatio. February 17th, your driver is 8 minutes away. And there is a horse. So again, cool digital collage from Rosatio, mixing different elements here. Nice little, love this kind of little bit of pixelation there. Nice little painterliness. Just great. Wasteman Goldminovich. Nuggets of Chicken. This was an open edition that only sold once. So lucky for Lewis on the scene, and manages to get, almost looks like the waffles tool there, or the that Santiago made. Almost, but perhaps not. It could be also Microsoft Paint. So another cool McDonald's painting. I love those McDonald's paintings, sausage McMuffins. Here is, and of course I follow Die with the Most Likes. Very cool guy. So here, kind of looks like a Last Supper. I wasn't sure what the reference is. It almost looks like a Last Supper, but you know, it's got that wide, it's got all these people. It's only 10 people, I think. I counted. Yeah, 10 people. I think the Last Supper has 12, right? Or is it 13 with Jesus? Not sure. And the head in the microwave. Cool work, though. Here is Jake Studios. 777 Club Asia. Nice. I think this is a 1 of 1. And again, another beautiful improvisation here. A 1 of 1 for 44 Tezos on Object. Look at this. Gorgeous. Another Manidal gorgeous piece here. Let's see if we can get this loaded up. For all those stamp collectors, I started with stamps. That's probably why I'm talking to you right now. The stamp collection of Filippo Pocobelli, the father of Gustavo, who is my father, so my grandfather, I never knew him. He died shortly before I was born. But I did inherit, so to speak, or at least when I went to Italy the first time, they gave me his stamp collection. So I can relate, so stuff like this, I'm just so all over this. This is gorgeous, and it's sold, by the way, for 0.14 ETH, which is a significant sale. And the color is off the charts, and these stamps, each one of these stamps is gorgeous. This is another thing that, like, I mean, again, if I'm the government of wherever Manidal's from, you know, or if I'm the government of Germany, it's like, Manidal, can you make us some pixel art stamps? These are all gorgeous. On-chain transactions, Ed Woods. So back to the pesky. So cool work here again. Nice still work, static work from Petsky on chain, also on chain, and this sold for 25 Tezos. Nice work. Here is Brain Dead, February 14th, swing.txt. I don't think we've looked at this one, kind of an operating system. It is possible we have looked at it though, with the window catching some of the black water there. Edition of 25. And selling for 10 Tezos, still available. Here's eBoy, a duo who started in Germany and now are in other parts of the world, I think. So again, cool kind of pixel art from Pioneers, eBoy Arts. Here's Armilk with a cool work, Tired Pixels 73. Very nice piece, kind of arty in a good way. You know, what's going on here? We're kind of leaving things unfinished, so to speak, in the best possible way. A little bit of almost looking like non-finito, but just embracing what the software and the process is giving you. Interesting decision. Beautiful work. Super interesting. Edition of 40. And is it sold out? It may be. This looks sold or transferred. Transferred to other maybe artists and collectors. Phosphines. This is Renato Marini, only 50 Tezos. Another pretty interesting artwork, kind of more conceptual. Nice piece, though. And the illusion is quite powerful. So 1 of 1 by Renato Marini. Renato Marini. Element Lee with a couple of works here. So cool experimental pixel art, visualizing of poetry tunes and imagery. Here's another one, Perspective. Another super interesting artist. I mean, look at how many interesting artists in here. We're at Nicholas Dietrich. Animate and Inanimate Objects, edition of 20, still available for 5 Tezos. We know it's going to sell out. And look at that mini little blinking over there. Always rad. And so, yeah, super interesting work by Nicholas Dietrich, as usual. Look at Cal Flemmer. This looks like it's on-chain. An on-chain minted for the Zero Contract Artist Studio. On-chain. So putting a glitch ROM on-chain, and you see that's why it's so small. Super duper interesting. Edition of 42. Not sure what's going on there from a sales perspective. Still loading. It hasn't been listed yet. Here's Kazuhiro Ehara. In Zoltar's collection, as we saw, kind of a minimal, almost looking like a glitch ROM that has been kind of pixeled out a little bit, processed a little bit. Edition of 1, and not sure, probably still available, I think, or not unlisted, I think. Perfect Loop. Is this, there we go. This is interesting. In our last 5 minutes, we're going to make it. Looks like an infinite regress, doesn't it? Very nice. From Perfect Loop, 16,000 views, 141 retweets. Nice work. Here's Cal Flemmer again. So some glitch works here. And so, again, doing some video glitch here too. So let's continue. Ex-Mortal, Meridian. So here adding a little bit of a flower. So another landscape here from Ex-Mortal, edition of 5, and not sure what's happening. Unfortunately, might have internet issues right now. Here and Now, another work. This is an edition of 13, also by Ex-Mortal. So quite beautiful, richly textured analog video glitch. Let's continue. Here's Pete Ritchie. What's the point? More interesting AI art. Courtesy, I think it was Little Cakes who was saying, Pete Ritchie, glad to see Pete Ritchie on the show. Yeah, super interesting AI art, isn't it? Here, speaking of interesting AI art, here's No Hygiene. It's all over for me. Look at the 842 likes. I mean, you have to marvel at No Hygiene's reach. I mean, it's amazing for someone who's so experimental, but very consistently releases, and there is a lot to be said for that. Back to that person who was wondering, what are the unwritten rules? I'd say just as a digital artist, that's probably the first thing you can do. Release something every day as far as your socials. Put it on all your socials every day. People will then get to know your practice. Here's Lily Illo with some cool little brush marks there on the side. Love the composition. So new works coming out from Lily Illo. Great colors here too. And here it looks kind of like the same figure here living in his shadow. And I think there's a picture of the shadow here too. And again, you almost see those textures of the wood that we saw in those brilliant physicals by Lily Illo at Kelowna Contemporary. As we go into the physicals here, Famo is dead. I'd give up my favorite things for you. And there's Garfield. Nice illustration. And here's Moto 583. Really nice illustration. Almost surprisingly normal for Moto 583. A mystery face. And here's David Hales. Another great artist I've been following for years here. So very cool, 236 likes, also very consistently posting. Ochihai Shohei with what looks like a new work, this time a video camera, gorgeously done, 67,000, 354 retweets, no link, just the icon. And I think even you could say a loose rule. Here's an unwritten rule. It's almost like the less you write, the better. Then it just becomes about the image. It's interesting. Here's Gabby Walter with a very interesting painting. I guess out of Salta, Argentina. I didn't realize. The last paint and the last I visit. So cool Mickey Mouse painting here. And even cool mouse cursors. This is Oliver Hofmeister Court. A basketball court, beautifully painted here. 30 by 40, oil on board. And Ellen Porteous, Don't Make It Weird. Please Don't Make It Weird, sold acrylic on wood. It's kind of a wild piece here, as you see. Interesting color and kind of three-dimensional, sold. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoy all the commentary, controversy, and wonderful art. Until next time, take care. And once again, thank you for your support.